Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Nicola Donnelly, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Warrant Officer Class 1 Kim Owen. Today's ceremony marks the 110th anniversary of the loss of the HMAS AE-1. His Majesty's Australian submarine AE-1 was launched in the yard of Vickers Ltd at Burrows-in-Furness, England on the 22nd of May 1913. The first of two E-class submarines built for the Royal Australian Navy. Manned by Royal Navy officers with a mixed crew of sailors drawn from the Royal Navy and the Royal Australian Navy, AE-1 departed England in March 1914, travelled through the Suez Canal and reached Sydney in May 1914. Although it remained surface for most of the voyage, this was the longest transit distance ever travelled by a submarine. At the outbreak of the First World War, AE-1 joined naval forces assigned to capture the German Pacific colonies and took part in operations leading to the occupation of German New Guinea. The loss of the AE-1, with her entire complement of 3 officers, 32 sailors on the 14th of September 1914, was the Royal Australian Navy's first major tragedy. It is not known what caused the AE-1 to disappear without a trace. Exhaustive searches were conducted without success. In December 2017, the wreck of the AE-1 was finally found in 300 metres of water off the Duke of York Island group. In April 2018, an expedition performed a detailed survey of the wreck. Over 8,000 images were collected and processed to generate a photogrammetric model of the wreckage. A team of experts is now analysing the footage to better understand what happened to AE-1. Today we will recall the story of Engine Room Artificer 3rd Class James Alexander Fettes, who was part of the crew and presumed drowned in the accidental loss of the HMAS AE-1. We warmly welcome Miss Pauline Gribble, representing the Naval Association of Australia. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Churchlands Senior High School from Churchlands, Western Australia. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Bossiers, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured, and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Engine Room Artificer 3rd Class James Alexander Fettes. James Fettes was born on the 30th of September 1884 in the Sydney suburb of Balmain, the second of 4 children born to William and Margaret Fettes. Little is known of James's early life. The family remained in Sydney throughout his childhood, where his younger brother Joseph died at the age of only 9. At some stage, James joined the Royal Navy, though details of his service have not survived in records. James transferred to the Royal Australian Navy on the 14th of December 1912 in London, committing to 5 years of service. He was initially based at the London depot as an Engine Room Artificer 4th Class. On the 7th of September 1913, he was promoted to Engine Room Artificer 3rd Class. James was transferred to work on submarines on the 28th of February 1914, joining the crew of HMAS AE1 in Australia in May 1914. HMAS AE1 and HMAS AE2 were Australia's first 2 submarines. having arrived from England in May 1914 after an 8-week voyage. When war was declared in August 1914, AE1 and AE2 were sent from Sydney to German New Guinea as part of the Australian Naval and Military Expeditionary Force, tasked with capturing the German colony. The submarines had limited range and speed and were accompanied by a parent ship to act as escort. AE1 arrived in Port Moresby on the 5th of September 1914. The Germans officially surrendered the colony on the 13th of September in Rabaul. AE1 formed part of the naval force in Rabaul Harbour that contributed to the Australian operations in the lead-up to the surrender. On the 14th of September 1914, HMAS AE1 sailed from Rabaul with her full contingent of 32 sailors and 3 officers. AE1's orders were to rendezvous with HMAS Parramatta and conduct a patrol in St George's Channel to the south and east of the Duke of York Islands. The 2 ships met at 8 a.m. that morning and sailed to Cape Gazelle, where they detached. Parramatta headed south, while AE1 went to the northeast. The weather was hazy, with visibility between 5 and 10 nautical miles. Parramatta tried to stay within visual signalling range of AE1 as she patrolled, but this proved problematic. At 2:30 p.m, AE1 signalled Parramatta asking, "What is the distance of visibility?" To which Parramatta responded, "About 5 miles." Within the next hour, Parramatta lost sight of AE1, and after searching for a few hours, the crew decided that AE1 must have returned to harbour without informing the ship. But by 8 p.m, AE1 had not returned to Rabaul Harbour. Despite search efforts over the next 2 days, no trace of AE1 was found, not even the shimmer of escaping oil floating on the water's surface. The search for AE1 was eventually called off. The submarine and her entire ship's company had disappeared without trace. Among the 35 men to lose their lives was Engine Room Artificer 3rd Class James Alexander Fettes. He was 29 years old. The loss of the submarine was the Royal Australian Navy's first major tragedy. It spurred an outpouring of support in Australia. The feeling of loss best encapsulated in the widely published poem of Del Mackay. She faced no battle flame. She heard no German gun. The ship without a name, the luckless AE1. Yet were her soldiers' lives no less for empire lost? And mothers, sweethearts, wives must pay the bitter cost. Pent in their iron cell, they sank beneath the wave. Untouched by shot or shell, they drifted to the grave. A harder fate was theirs than men's who fight and die, but still Australia cares and will not pass them by. When honour lists are read, their names will surely be among the gallant dead who fought to keep us free. After years of searching, the wreck of the AE1 was found on the 20th of December 2017 off the Duke of York Islands. The exact location remains classified. James and his shipmates' remains were never recovered. They are commemorated on the Plymouth Naval Memorial in England. On the first anniversary of James's death, his family and friends inserted 4 memorial notes in the Sydney Morning Herald in his honour. The poem from his family read, "It seems but a day since he bade us goodbye, his heart full of hope and his spirits so high. How little we thought when he left us that day, the grim hand of death should soon tear him away." James Fettes' name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Engine Room Artificer 3rd Class James Alexander Fettes, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They have no grave but the cruel sea, no flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, a fast on the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over, but in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you.